There is a moment, usually quiet, when you feel the truth pressing against your ribs. You know exactly what you need to do, and yet you remain still. Not because you are weak, not because you lack ambition, but because something inside you has become too loud, or too heavy, or too afraid to move. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's a silent collapse of presence, a slow erosion of inner direction, a life paused by forces you don't see but feel every day. Tonight, this is a journey back to movement, not through pressure, not through force, but through the discipline that whispers instead of shouts, the discipline that awakens your inner strength rather than punishes your hesitation. This is the path of the silent discipline. Elias was 39 when he realized his life had stopped moving. Long before he noticed, from the outside, everything looked functional. A stable job, a comfortable apartment, the routines of an adult who has it together. But inside him, tasks piled up like stones in a forgotten courtyard. Emails unanswered. Projects never started, dreams postponed into the vague territory of later. Every night he thought, tomorrow I'll start. Every morning he whispered, not yet. It wasn't that he didn't care. It was that something within him felt too tangled to move. Every step forward seemed to demand a strength he no longer trusted he had. One dawn, exhausted by his own avoidance, Elias sat in the stillness of his living room. No music, no phone, no distractions, just the weight of everything left undone. That was the moment he saw it. His life wasn't stuck because he lacked discipline. It was stuck because he had forgotten how to meet himself. This is where the journey begins. Procrastination is not resistance to work, it is resistance to feeling. Adults don't procrastinate because they are careless. They procrastinate because action forces them to confront their doubts, their fear of inadequacy, their buried exhaustion, their grief, their unspoken expectations, their silent shame of still not being enough. The mind avoids action the same way a wounded animal avoids touch. This is why forcing yourself into productivity doesn't work. You are not fighting tasks. You are fighting the emotional tension beneath them. Silent discipline is not about pushing through pain. It is about creating a movement so gentle, so grounded, so present, that your fears no longer need to protect you from your own life. For Elias, procrastination wasn't a lack of action. It was a constant internal buzzing, 1,000 micro thoughts competing for attention, a mind clouded with should, later, and I don't know where to start. Procrastination is noise disguised as stillness, and the first step is noticing the noise without drowning in it. This awareness opens a small space, and movement begins in spaces, not forces. The noise softens and reveals the weight beneath. Not yet sounds harmless, but it becomes heavy the longer it stays. Every unfinished task quietly drains your psychological energy, not by effort, but by self-disappointment. Elias felt it every night as he lay in bed, the silent accusation of a day misused. Here, the story evolves. You don't move because the weight feels overwhelming, but the weight exists because you don't move. This paradox must be broken gently, not by tackling everything, but by meeting one small corner of resistance. This prepares the mind for the next revelation. Inside every adult who procrastinates, there is a guardian, not an enemy, a protector. The guardian blocks action because it fears the emotional cost of failing, of being judged, of being overwhelmed. When Elias finally noticed this part of himself, he felt compassion instead of frustration. And with compassion, the guardian relaxes. When the guardian relaxes, the path opens. This reveals the deeper mechanism. Energy stagnates when the mind holds more than it expresses, when thoughts do not become movement, when intentions do not become steps. Stagnation creates anxiety, and anxiety reinforces stagnation. Elias realized movement doesn't come from motivation. It comes from releasing the trapped energy through small, deliberate action. But first, he had to face what he'd been avoiding. Every task holds a pocket of discomfort somewhere inside it. Fear of mistakes, fear of complexity, fear of not being good enough. The mind avoids discomfort because it confuses discomfort with danger. Silent discipline teaches you to sit with discomfort, to feel it without trying to escape, until avoiding it takes more energy than moving through it. From that presence comes clarity, and clarity begins the healing. Procrastination is often followed by harsh self-judgment. Elias's inner voice attacked him whenever he didn't act. "You're wasting your life. You should be better by now. What's wrong with you?" But that voice didn't create action. It exhausted what little strength he had left. Silent discipline replaces judgment with observation. Not, "Why am I like this?" but, "What needs compassion here?" This opens the gateway to action. Elias discovered that every journey begins with a step so small it feels almost insignificant, but it's not the size that matters. It's the internal shift it creates. The silent step has no pressure, no urgency, no expectation. It's a whisper of movement, a single email answered, a document opened, a corner tidied, a plan clarified. Small steps pierce stagnation. Movement returns. Life breathes again. The first movement is the antidote to inertia. It's the moment you tell your body, not your mind, to lead. Instead of thinking about the task, you move physically toward it. Stand up, sit at the desk, open the file. The body acts before the mind negotiates, and when the body moves, the mind follows. This leads to a deeper discipline. Every morning, before the world wakes, Elias sat in silence. Not to meditate, to meet himself. He asked only one question: what truly matters today? This ritual cut through the noise. It created direction without pressure, presence without perfection. With clarity, overwhelm dissolves. With direction, the guardian rests. Harsh discipline breaks under pressure. Gentle discipline bends and endures. Gentle discipline is subtle, consistent, soft, persistent. It respects your emotional limits while still inviting growth. Elias realized discipline wasn't a cage. It was a container, a safe place for his energy to flow. This birthed a new identity. Behavior doesn't create identity. Identity creates behavior. When Elias stopped trying to be productive and chose instead to become a person who moves, every action felt different. He no longer forced himself. He aligned himself. Movement became natural, a reflection of who he was becoming. And then something shifted entirely. This is the moment when procrastination dissolves, not because tasks get easier, but because presence becomes stronger. Elias entered a state where action no longer felt like effort. It felt like truth. Movement wasn't something he did. It was something he was. The inner noise quieted. The guardian rested. The energy flowed. The man who once couldn't start was now unable to remain still. One evening, Elias looked around his apartment. The projects once abandoned were complete. The goals once postponed were underway. The life once stagnant was moving with quiet power. He understood the truth. Procrastination had never been his enemy. It was a signal, calling him back to presence. His identity had shifted from someone who avoids to someone who moves, from someone who hesitates to someone who meets life as it arrives. The silent discipline had awakened his inner force. Your life changes not when you conquer procrastination, but when you understand it, when you meet the weight with compassion, when you soften the guardian, when you take the smallest step without violence, when discipline becomes a gentle companion rather than a whip, presence returns, energy flows, movement becomes your nature. You awaken the force you thought you lost, the force that was waiting for you in the stillness. Before this day ends, sit with yourself in silence. Ask only this: where is the smallest step that wants to be taken now? Write it, whisper it, move toward it. Let this be the moment you shift from waiting to living. And if you feel it, even faintly, tell me, what is the first silent step your life is calling for?